Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited you're with us on 33 Founders today because I'm here with Courtney Klein, the founder of Storq. Thank you so much for being with me today, Courtney.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So I think one of the best ways to introduce your maternity basics lines is with a quote from one of your customers who said that she wore her dress almost every single day with her cowgirl boots, her flip-flops, and even her wedding shoes. She wore it the night before her daughter was born and on the way back from the hospital. I think that's a very telling indicator that you guys are really onto something. Can you introduce us to Storq and the impact you've made so far?
Yeah, so we retail a set of 4 maternity basics, and the idea behind them is that this is your maternity capsule wardrobe. These are pieces that you wear every day and that keep you looking and feeling like yourself, during the 9 months of your pregnancy.
One of the first blogs that I was talking to you about just a second ago that came out about Storq was clothing that's going to make you wish that you were pregnant. I don't think that there's anything, as you shared, that could be a greater compliment than that. Can you explain what differentiates you guys right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first off, that's one of the most amazing things that we can hear from people is that, we really are onto something different and that what we're doing is standing out in the market, and that's really exciting. I think a lot of it has to do with the way that we're talking to pregnant women. So, we have this sort of silly, sort of serious mantra around the office, which is pregnant ladies are people too. And it doesn't sound like groundbreaking or crazy, but I think a lot of times when you become pregnant, people stop treating you like a person. Oftentimes, my first Christmas, I got a lot of gifts, when I told everyone I was pregnant, that for my child. It wasn't so much about me. It was now all focused on this kid. And I think, one of the things we do is we accept that, like, when you're pregnant, it's not that you suddenly have all these different wants and needs. You're still the same person. You want the same things. You just want them adapted for your new lifestyle. And so that's sort of where we've started with Storq.
I think something that is so important that you've shared before is that it's a new idea of motherhood where you don't have to be a martyr. So the great thing about the Storq bundles is that I can still be as fashionable as I like, whether that's with crazy bright colors, or for me, I'd probably just wear the dress and flip-flops. How have you seen women respond to that, and what's it like for you as the founder to be on Instagram or to be on Facebook and see 10 different looks all with the same bundle?
It's exactly what I had hoped for when we originally started thinking of this concept. I think when everything's changing around you, when you're pregnant and like suddenly everything is shifting and you're dressing a new body and you're sort of uncertain, who am I? And then who am I as a mom? A lot of that is really confusing, and maintaining, who you are in the midst of this sort of turmoil is really important. And so seeing, all the different ways that women have been able to do this has been incredibly exciting. So seeing the woman who wears it, the dress with the cowboy boots, versus seeing somebody else who wears it with a crop top, like all of that, has shown us that we're really onto something, that there is room in the market for something like Storq, that is something that seems really basic, but actually has a big impact.
It has a huge impact because you guys started out with the clothing bundle. Now you have a beauty bundle and a body bundle, and you guys are also working on a new bundle coming out, right?
Yeah, so next week we're also launching an intimates bundle. So a nursing bra, a pair of briefs, and a pair of socks. So again, the same philosophy around ease, comfort, style, taking all of that into the nursing market next. And that's sort of our first foray there.
And when I saw the picture of that, I had no idea that it was a nursing bra either. So great job with that. It just looks like it looks like a normal, like I would expect to see that at Bloomingdale or something walking around. It's just a normal intimates.
I think that's what's sort of something we've tried to do with Storq, and something that's important to us is that these are things that, for a long time we've had these expectations about how, pregnant women look, how they act, how they want to dress. And now that we're having kids at this totally new life stage, more babies are being born to women over 30 than ever before. 40% of babies are born to women over 30 now. And first-time mothers are, well-educated, they're in the workplace, they have disposable income. And so the maternity market hasn't necessarily adapted to that yet. And so when we design products, we're sort of thinking, okay, these are the hallmarks, for example, with a nursing bra, like snaps and all of this crazy stuff, like let's take that out of the equation and let's rebuild this from scratch, you know, in a way that seems like it would fit our customers a little bit better.
Yeah, and so it doesn't look like a death contraption.
Oh, I know. Some of these things look like, some of these things look really crazy. I'll just leave it that.
When it comes to launching new products, you just said that when you guys were looking at creating an intimates bundle, you said, okay, here are all the things that we don't feel fit our customers right now. Let's start from scratch and build it. You guys recently did that with the carry-all, which you call a non-baby bag, which I love. Can you tell us about that and what the process is like bringing a product to market for you?
Yeah, sure. So I think our biggest thing is we always start from a problem. You know, we're always trying to solve a problem, and we're not just like, hey, there's this like really good looking thing we could create. Like, let's just go and make it. I think we always try to approach it from what's a problem that we can solve through design, or what's a problem we can solve, you know, through a Storq product for our customers. And so thinking about, you know, the carry-all, when we started working on that product, we did a general sort of overview of what are all the baby bags like in the market? You know, like what are some of the hallmarks? What are things there that are happening? And then what are we hearing from the people, you know, who love Storq already? And what are we hearing from all the other moms that we have in our lives? And so we sort of, you know, take stock of what's happening in the market, what our customers are talking about, and then, you know, we like to do sort of brief ethnographic research, you know, with a lot of different types of moms. And in the carry-all, something that emerged was that there wasn't really a bag that let you, you know, have your husband wear it, that like, you know, or your partner wear it, or you wear it, or you know, carry it even when you don't have your kid, or pass it off to your caretaker. You know, there were these hallmarks of baby bags that oftentimes didn't feel like it could also be your bag. And then, you know, applying smart things to that. So it's black. It's a very basic bag. It's a backpack, you know, but it also is a tote handle, because we heard that, you know, being able to quickly throw it over your shoulders is important, but also sometimes you want to just pick it up while you have your baby in the other hand, or sometimes you want to snap it over your stroller. And then with the fabric, there was, you know, everything has nylon on the inside with diaper bags, and a lot of people didn't really feel great about that. And so we sourced a TP fabric, which is actually water resistant. So you can, you know, pour a glass of water on it and it beads off. So thinking about all the different ways, you know, we start from brainstorming, like, what are the ways in which this can be different? And once we get through that brainstorm, we're like, is this enough to really make a product? And it's at that point that we decide, like, yeah, we're going to do this. Or no, this is probably not a great idea right now, or this is not a great idea ever. And so we sort of put all of our products through that churn.
How have you gone through expanding your line? Because you started with the basics and now you guys have different colors in the dress, for example. When did you know that it was okay to say, hey, you've tried this, now we have these 3 new colors?
So we've learned a lot. And I'm going to say I don't think that we've always gotten our product launches right. But I think one thing that's been core to the way we've launched products is we've listened to our audience. So when we decided to introduce colors for the dresses, one thing that we were hearing from our customers was, I love you, I want to buy more, but there's nothing else for me to buy. And, you know, the dress was one of our most popular products, and people, you know, we were consistently hearing feedback that people wanted to wear it every single day, but the black was not necessarily something that they wanted to wear every single day.
Well, I can completely agree with that, because I have been looking for that dress for so long. And when I saw it, and of course there was a pregnant woman modeling it, but I was like, that's it. That's
it is a great t-shirt dress. For. I still wear it. I still wear it all the time.
So when it comes to special products like you guys did for Of a Kind, I believe that was in December, right? Mm-hmm. That was a great dress. Do you foresee more of those types of like brief launches coming out?
Yeah, I think that's something that we've realized is that, you know, our basics are our core of our business, and that's where we like to focus a lot of our energy, and we're constantly looking at iterating those basics, you know, looking at new fabrics, looking at ways to really hone and improve those. And that's where we focus most of our energy. And what we've decided is before we get to that level with like another product, we're going to start trying some of these more smaller runs. So our first run of the carry-all, for example, was fairly small. And then after that run was sold out, then we switched, you know, to a pre-order wait list. And so we can kind of gauge the interest so that we don't have to go all in on every single product. So similarly with Of a Kind, that was a way for us to see if the dress in different colors was something that we wanted to pursue, and seeing how quickly that edition sold out and sort of feedback we got there helped us inform where to head next.
It is. It was a great idea.
It was
All the
fun. I mean, I
repos.
also love Claire and Erica, who are buddies of mine who run Of a Kind.
One of the things that I love about Storq is just right when I get on the site, it's beautiful. It's just like the clothes. It's beautiful. It's simple. It doesn't pressure me. I'm just having a really enjoyable experience. And you had a great tenure at Hard Candy Shell in New York before you came to San Francisco. What did you take from your experience as a partner there to your role at Storq?
I think one of the most important things is that, when you run a business where you're interfacing, your primary interaction with your customer is online, that every single piece of that experience is your brand. Oftentimes people will design a website as an afterthought, but that product, I believe, is just as important as the basics that we're making. I think every click, the way that it's put together, all of that speaks to who we are as Storq. And if somebody can't, if we say that we're a brand that's really smart, and then somebody goes to our website and our checkout flow is terrible and takes them a long time, that's not going to work for our brand. And I think of, every decision that we sort of made and the way we talk about our products and the way we've designed the whole site speaks to who we are and is an extension of Storq and an embodiment of Storq. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons and takeaways that I took from Hard Candy Shell.
So I want to rewind a little bit to that. Right about that time, you made the decision to come to San Francisco. So saying goodbye to your time at Hard Candy Shell, and I know you didn't want to leave New York. You had a lot of times where you said that the beginning of your time in San Fran was like a moment of pause.
Yeah.
What kind of conversations were you having with yourself during that time?
So I really didn't know when I first landed here what my next step was. And, I was fortunate enough to have a little bit of runway and a little bit of time to really think about, do I want to continue doing client services in a design agency? Do I want to create something that's my own? Do I want to just go get a 9-to-5 job? What's that, what do I see the next 10 years of my life being like? And I had gone, as most people do, straight from college into my first job. From there, to Hard Candy Shell. I had never really thought, do I want to be doing digital product design? Is that who I am? And, I also felt a really strong desire to keep learning. And there was tons I could keep learning about product design and client services, but I kind of wanted to learn about something totally and completely different. That's what that pause allowed me to realize. It was really challenging for me not to have the structure of a, 60,
That's
70,
hard.
80-hour work week. That was what I was so used to, and I definitely freaked out a little bit. But now I can look back on it with fondness, whereas time, it was a bit rough.
I have in my notes a great quote from you where you said, "It's okay to jump off and not know where you're going to land." And right next to that, I wrote, "Is it though?" So apparently I don't feel comfortable with that. What did you do during those times where it didn't feel right?
I think it's funny, the jumping off and not knowing where you're going to land. I can be a perfectionist, and I can tend to want all the answers and go, they
I
always
want all the answers. I want that.
I want all the answers, and I want to know every single scenario, and I want to have, all of my T's crossed and I's dotted before I do something. I want to deliver something that's way up here. And so I think when I was talking about, just jumping and not knowing where you were going to land is letting yourself do something that's not perfect, getting something out there, and then start learning versus trying to learn it all before you go. And, with Storq, the stakes, felt really high to me. It felt like, it was a huge commitment. It was really scary. I didn't want to jump off the diving board, but I kind of, had to keep telling myself it's okay to fail. And if I don't launch this maternity brand, society is going to continue.
Yeah, I saw that. I got a good chuckle out of that.
Okay. It'll be okay. And I kind of had to tell myself that to convince myself that, I didn't need to see exactly what that spot was going to be when I landed.
When it comes to your own personal learning, you've shared before that's something that's so important to you. And you said that you approach life as an anthropologist. And I don't think there's a better way to say that. It's so well put. Can you explain that to us?
Can you elaborate a little more?
For you, it seems like personal learning, whether it's for Storq or just how to be a better person, how to be a better mom, a better friend is a part of you. It's just something that when, like, for example, when you went to Hard Candy Shell, you would stay up all night because you had no idea
Oh yeah, there have been
what you were
plenty of
doing.
times. Yeah, I think that that's something that I definitely always want to be learning. I think that's something really core to my personality and something that I strive to do in life. I think if I ever tell myself I've learned all that I have to learn about topic X, that's just, I don't know when that will be. And if I ever said that, that would totally be a lie. I think I'm constantly learning, with Storq, I'm constantly learning, like you said, with parenthood. When I got to my first job, I had been a dance major in college. I moved to New York, managed to somehow get a job at Razorfish in their strategy department, and had no idea what I was doing other than, I was a critical thinker, and I knew how to write and I knew how to use PowerPoint. And so I stayed up, I read all the time. I listened and went to every single meeting I could in order to bring myself up to speed.
When you decided to actually pursue Storq, one of the things that you shared in a previous interview that a huge game changer was when you actually told people, I'm starting this company called Storq. Tell us about why it's so important to make that shift and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Because once you put it out there, people have an expectation.
Yeah, I think it's funny because every year I actually get an alert on my phone from one of my best friends. And she had checked into a bar on Foursquare and said, if Courtney Klein has not started Storq by this time next year, she owes me a trip anywhere in the world for dinner. And I get that alert every single year, and it always makes me laugh because I started. I think you can't take it back, and it makes it real. And then also as you start saying it out loud, you start getting good feedback that can, yes, you don't need to know where you're going to land, but maybe helps you get within a closer target. As I started saying to people, hey, I'm working on this maternity brand, and here's the market research I've done. Here are my hunches. You're a mom, or you're pregnant. How does this strike you? Is this something that am I onto something? Does this seem off base? What do you think? And then, also finding contacts who can help you out as you start to build the business is really important.
During the early days when you had to really adopt that fake it until you make it, and someone's asking you questions and you're answering and thinking, oh God, I have to stay up all night and research that. When you did get home and you did do all that research, what was it that was pushing you through those late nights when you wanted to give up or you just wanted to go to sleep?
I think everyone's faking it till they make it, maybe forever. I don't know.
Oh God, that doesn't sound good.
What is making it? That's a larger question that perhaps we don't have time for now. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think what's pushing me. I think there is I have a desire to succeed. Like I mentioned, I'm a perfectionist and I want to know that I'm doing my best work. And I don't think that, without those late nights, I could have done that. It would have been easy. It was my first job. I was in my 20s. When I first landed at Razorfish, I could have just gone into the office every day and hoped to learn something and coasted. It's a huge company. But for me, I really wanted to take everything I could out of that experience. And I felt like I couldn't learn while I was at work if I wasn't also simultaneously having these late nights where I was, learning on my own.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't even know what, I remember when I first started, I didn't even know what half the words meant.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd be like, yeah, an angel investor, that's cool. And I'm like, who is it? What does that mean?
And then you go Google.
So Courtney, compare and contrast Courtney Klein pre-Storq to the Courtney Klein I'm with today.
Whew, interesting. Very interesting. That's such a hard question. I think a lot has changed for me. It's been a funny, I turned 30, I got married, I had a kid, I started a company.
Oh, God.
So there's been a lot of, and I moved across the country. So there's been a lot of change in that, in a very short span of time. I think I've had to really become, when I was a partner at Hard Candy Shell, there was somebody to sort of share the responsibility with, and with Storq, a lot of it is on my shoulders in a really good way and in sometimes not great way. And I think I really have to own up to the mistakes that I've made and, the decisions, now that I'm the CEO of this company, the decisions that we make, that comes back to me and I've had to really own that. And sometimes that's not always comfortable, you know?
What do you do personally or professionally to empower your inner CEO?
Whew. I trust my gut. You know, I think there's so much information out there, and you can look at how so many other companies are doing things, and you shouldn't stop doing that. But I think at the end of the day, you know, I have to tell myself that there's a reason I started this business. There's a reason why it's going the direction that it's going, and I have to trust my gut and not, you know, be confident instead of letting all of that information overload erode that confidence, which I think can oftentimes happen if you don't just say, like, empower yourself to trust yourself.
How does one do that?
Easier said than done.
So when you're going to, when there is a big decision to make, let's say you guys were going to release the new colors, and you thought, I don't know, like there's already colors for Maternity where maybe we should stick with the basics. So you start going into all those what ifs. What do you do to silence those little menaces?
Well, we always start small and deliberately. I mean, I think trying to hedge your bet on how big of a mistake is going to be is
very smart.
You know,
like it.
One way to do it and to empower yourself. You know, I'm going back to saying, you know, it's not going to be that bad. You know, if I decide to go all in on, you know, having these dresses that are a color and it's a huge you know, I've made thousands and thousands and thousands of them. It's really hard to make that decision when you're talking at that scale, but it's a lot easier to empower yourself to make decisions when the scale, you know, you can control that scale and make it something that feels more manageable so that you feel confident that in making that decision, you know. And then I have a lot of amazing friends and advisors that, you know, when a decision that's really big, you know, and I say, this is what I'm thinking of doing. How does that strike you? And then again, I take that back to trusting my gut to a certain extent, but I always sort of put my feelers out.
How have you learned in that sense then to reframe challenges?
In what sense?
So sometimes like something will happen and I'll just be like, oh my God, like, what are we going to do? How do you move from, oh my God, to, okay, everything is good. I'm going to remain calm and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to trust my gut. I'm going to make this decision.
I mean, I always think when something happens, like, okay, that happened. Now what are we going to do next? Like, if we make a huge mistake or if something really crazy happens, you know, as a result of decisions, I try not to wallow or, you know, really focus on what happened. You know, I'm trying to figure out how to make it better versus focusing on what happened or dwelling on what happened and obsessing over what happened. I think it's really easy when something doesn't go according to plan to just circle in that for a long period of time instead of figuring out, okay, that thing has happened. We can't change that. What's our path forward? And I'm always trying to think of what's the path forward when we do stumble.
I love that. That's so well put. I needed that. I'm gonna keep that one.
Path forward. Path forward.
So Courtney, fast forward 15 years. You're sitting with Nell. She's now 16. You're at the kitchen table.
Terrifying thought. Okay.
So she's 16 now. The garden is huge now. So you guys are having like a giant buffet, and she's getting ready to think about college, or maybe it's a trip abroad. What advice are you going to give her about taking the leap to follow her passions and to do things that she may be initially fearful of?
You know, I think that there are, you know, we're all going from point A, birth, to point B, death, and there are an infinite number of ways to take that path between, and I think you have to find your way to do it. I don't think you can just follow somebody else's path from A to B, and I think that's what I tell her is find your own path and what works for you versus trying to fit yourself into somebody else's.
I love it. So I want to shift gears for the last couple minutes and just talk about your personal journey. So fill in the blank. Courtney Klein is...
My personal journey. Oh gosh. What do people usually say in response to that?
So I got a really good one last week from one of the founders of Rough Draft Ventures, where Peter Boyce said that he loves coffee and good people and empowering young entrepreneurs. So I was like, wow, that was on it. Like you were ready.
Yeah, I mean, I love empowering pregnant women. You know, I love making it so that parents can become parents without having to give up being people. You know, that's something that I'm definitely working on every day is figuring out how to do that.
I'm glad.
I also like snow cones. Snow cones are a huge passion of mine.
I saw your husband imported you one, right?
Yes, he imported me an amazing shaved ice machine from Japan. So if you're ever in San Francisco, you can come up here and I'll bust it out.
Crazy.
I'm looking at it right now.
So it's out all the time, like
All the
always to
time.
be used.
Yeah. We throw parties like out in the neighborhood. Like we'll go outside our house on like warm days and we'll just have neighbors coming by and friends coming by because I
The
love
snow cone party. I love it. You had a quote in a previous interview, which is why I'm so glad that you brought up parenting, where you said that when you become a parent, you realize that parents are regular people who are still trying to figure their own shit out. And so I actually also in my notes wrote, oh my God, there's no way. Like I always thought that my parents just had all the answers. What have you learned?
So did I.
What did you learn the last year?
The last year has been incredibly humbling. I'm just like you, where I always imagined my parents had superpowers. I always imagined they had all the answers. And it's very humbling to become a parent and also makes you understand your parents in a whole new light. That you're just a person and you don't necessarily have all those answers and that you're still working on all these different things in your life. And having a kid doesn't necessarily change that. And I've learned, as far as parenting goes, and even a little bit I think it translates to work, is to really be humble and to be kind to myself. I think it's really easy to see, the world of Instagram, just the way that we live our lives now digitally. There's so much out there that you feel like you have to be perfect and you feel like you have, particularly in parenthood, there's like super moms. And I think it's okay to say, I'm not perfect and I'm figuring it out as I go. And I make lots of mistakes and hopefully I won't make them, but I'm doing the best I can.
I love that. It's all about moving forward.
Yeah, I'm always this way.
It all comes back together. Up to this point, who would you say has been one of the most influential people in your life?
Oof, that's tough. There's so many. I think my mom had a lot. I don't know if everyone always, as I'm saying, parents don't have all the answers. It was my parents actually ran, my mom and dad, I'd say, they actually ran a small business together for the last 25 years. And so seeing them navigate the challenges and both of them working, really hard and pursuing this passion has been really influential to me. I think the way that I work and the way that I think and also what I hope Nell takes from me and sort of the way that I've done things.
So 2 more questions. I want the world to know about your gardening because it's amazing. So tell us about your favorite things to grow, and then you love to cook too. So like you were saying, what your favorite meal is to cook with the plenty that you guys have outside.
Sure. So I should say the caveat is I am the gardener's assistant. My husband, Zach, is the pro gardener. I just do what he tells me, and it's resulted in an amazing garden that we have. I love the tomatoes. I think a fresh tomato that you've grown off the vine in your backyard, there's very little better when it comes to food. And so I really like to make, as I was saying before, the gazpacho, where you're taking, there's so much good stuff from the garden that can go in there, and it's so easy. It makes me feel like it's summer.
Yeah, and it's from, like, you grew it yourselves from outside. Like,
I know.
while you're eating it, you can see it. It's right there.
It's been amazing. Like, we really didn't know much about gardening when we moved from New York to San Francisco, and it's been so fun to figure that out and have this whole garden, blossom around in the backyard.
All right, last question. Have you read El Luna's piece, The Crossroads of Should and Must?
So you want to know what's so funny? When I told you that we had to move out of our apartment briefly, I'm actually in El Luna's apartment.
No way!
She's a friend of mine. I have a bunch of copies over there.
That is
Yeah,
crazy.
this is actually her studio / her work live studio.
That's the studio with the white room?
Yeah, so that's where I'm living right now.
Oh my God. So I guess you have read it then.
Yeah, so I am. And all her artwork and a lot of the artwork from the book is actually hanging all around the studio.
Oh my God, that is so cool. What an awesome coincidence.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's a totally amazing person.
For those who don't know, following your must is when you're listening to that voice inside of you that's just exploding and you can only go after the way you feel. Doesn't matter what everyone else is saying or what the prescribed path is. How are you waking up every day and following your must?
I think that's exactly what Storq is for me. I have this vision of empowering parents to keep being themselves, and that's sort of my single track goal. And I think about it all the time, and particularly now that I'm a parent myself, I think about, how can I show my daughter and show her through Storq that, and this has nothing to do with working in the home or staying at home, all of that is awesome. I think showing her that just because you're a mom, or just because you're a parent doesn't mean you stop following your must. And I think that's what I'm trying to wake up every day and do, is continue to follow that must, even though there are all these other things that have unfolded in my life, parenthood being one of them.
I love it. So for everyone else who wants to keep up to date with Storq and all the things that you guys are working on and you personally, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can sign up for our newsletter, storq.com, pages/newsletter, or on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, all of the above.
Everywhere.
Snapchat, we never Snapchat, but we have a Snapchat. Nothing's on there, but if you wanted to.
Instagram's really great.
Yeah, Instagram is probably our best medium because we are so visual as a brand.
Oh, Courtney, I can't thank you enough for being here. Everything that you shared, I feel like resonates at the perfect time.
Awesome. It was really, really fun.